Finally, I just finished with work. Now I can waste my whole day on my smartphone. Oh, hello, didn't see you there. So I used to be someone who was a massive overstimulation addict. Basically, it was my life, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And in this video, I want to talk about a dopamine detox and the effects I noticed from it and my protocol. Without further ado, let's dive into it. Now, just before we begin, actually, if you're new to the channel, I just want to let you know kind of the things I post. So I went from dead broke to a six-figure job at 23 years old, and I went from out of shape to being in good shape. I'll throw some photos up somewhere. And on this channel, I share and give an honest overview of my self-improvement journey to help you out and hopefully save you a lot of time if you're trying to accomplish anything similar. If that sounds interesting, please do like, comment, and subscribe, and let's dive into the content. All right. By the way, I have some notes in front of me. If I'm looking down at any point, I'm just looking at my notes. So first, I want to talk about my past, right? Just so we know what was the starting point. I was an overstimulation addict, and that is not an understatement. So I've written some things down over here which I thought were important to really get the point across. So I would wake up, smoke weed, usually wake and bake, so smoke weed. I was, and again, this has to be mentioned because it's part of the protocol. So, excuse me if it's a little bit out there, but I was masturbating 3+ times a day, sometimes to porn, sometimes not, but 3+ times a day easy, but always to like some sort of external stimuli. I would waste hours on my phone. I always needed to have my phone with me. I think a lot of people can relate to like a mini heart attack when you feel like you don't have your phone, even if it's in the other room, you know where it is, but it's kind of like that fear of missing out. I need to be updated. I need to stay up to date with Instagram, whatever. So I always had my phone on me. And I would sleep through a lot of the day, and that's something that's important. The reason I bring that up is because I really want to point out that was my life, like for real, and B, this was at this point I had probably the worst anxiety and guilt I ever had of my life, like in my life, right? And I think the symptoms of overstimulation and constantly reaching for like the next thing to numb my pain, it was exactly that. It was a symptom of a much deeper problem that I needed to address. Maybe I'll talk about, actually, I probably won't talk about that in this video, going into like the intricacies of, how I felt internally and working through that kind of emotional strings, right? That could be a whole video in of itself. But the point I'm trying to make is I feel like these were just symptoms of a deeper problem. And at this point in my life, again, I had the worst anxiety and guilt, and it was probably the darkest time of my life. And the reason I bring up sleeping a lot is because that was kind of my life, like reach for overstimulation, and then when I was exhausted from that, just go to sleep. It was kind of like I was trying to avoid real life as much as possible, right? And at this point, I came across, so back when I was doing this stuff, right, when I came across this stuff, dopamine detoxes weren't too popular. Now they've really taken off. There's like popular media outlets talking about them. But back then, NoFap was just starting to take off, right? And that was like my introduction into this dopamine detox world. So initially, that's what I did. I cut out PMO, as it's called, which is porn, masturbation, orgasm. Again, I know this video is a little bit, we're gonna talk about some stuff with this, all right? So not everyone will be comfortable with it, but this is my journey, so I do have to share these parts to get the point across. So yeah, initially cut out PMO, right? And that was the only thing I cut out initially. I didn't cut out the smartphone, any of that. Because again, back then it wasn't the concept of dopamine detox. Back then it was just like cutting out porn, like the NoFap kind of community, right? And that was it. I didn't really track my smartphone usage or video game usage, any of that other shit. And just from cutting that out, I felt way better. I had more energy to socialize throughout the day. I had more energy to kind of do some of the harder things that I was putting off. This was just kind of the first step in starting to remove overstimulation from my life. But that step alone made me feel better. I mean, some of the benefits I can remember off the top of my head, like the ones I've mentioned, just feeling more confident. People I wanted to talk to, I didn't feel as hesitant to go out and talk to them. My anxiety was lower. My feelings of guilt were lower. Some of that is probably connected to my religious upbringing as well. So, obviously in a religious upbringing, porn is not looked at as a great thing, as you can imagine. So, I think some of that reduction of guilt is related to that. And definitely I'm aware of that. But overall, I started to feel better. So I was like, okay, there's something here. Now, at this point, obviously, there's a whole bunch of stuff that happened in the middle. And, I'm going to skip forward a little bit. And I'm going to talk about my current protocol. And then I'm going to talk about all the benefits I've noticed to date as long as some caveats that I feel are very important, that I've learned throughout this journey. Okay, firstly, my current protocol looks a little something like this. First off, work before play, period, right? And this is something I implemented pretty recently because I noticed I was kind of starting to fall off track a little bit again. I don't even reach out for my smartphone until I have finished with work, right? Like nothing, no smartphone, no video games, nothing, nothing, nothing. Work has to be done first, right? So that includes, now when I say work before play, it includes a few things. It includes work, like literally my job. It includes meditation for about 30 minutes a day, which I aim for every day, and includes working out. I do boxing and I do weightlifting, so those have to be done. And then I'm allowed to move on to play. Now in the play, I've set out some rules for myself. I don't go on a complete cold turkey, nothing is allowed, and I'll explain a little bit later why I choose to do that. So as far as video games, I allow myself 1 hour a day. There are days where I don't play. There are days I may play up to 2 hours if I've truly done everything. But the point is, it's controlled. It's not like I'm spending 5 hours and my whole day is wasted playing video games like it used to be. I only check my phone for 30 minutes a day maximum, right? I don't really track this with like an app or something. I have rough estimates in my head. But the point is, I shouldn't be spending all day on my phone, and I shouldn't be on my phone procrastinating on work. My diet is on point, right? Like obviously I fit some treats in here and there, but overall, generally speaking, I eat healthy. I eat my vegetables, eat my fruits. I'm not reaching out for junk food to numb my pain anymore like I used to as well. So that's part of. I didn't necessarily do it for the dopamine detox thing. I did it because I liked, the physical effect it has on me. I feel better. My body looks better. But it is part of removing that overstimulation. My social media and media usage is almost nil. This is something I might make a separate video about because honestly, it's too much to dive into just from this video. But I will say I feel a lot better and just generally happier by cutting out social media and media content. Now, I'm not saying social media is the devil or media is the devil. We need to stay updated, and there's a lot of positives that social media has brought to my life as well. One being, I can share my journey like this, which is pretty cool. But also, I got on this journey from other people who were going on similar self-improvement journeys, and I saw their progress on YouTube or Reddit or wherever, and then I was inspired to do similar things, so I do think there's a lot of positives that come with social media. I don't think it's all negative, but when I was spending a lot of time on social media or looking at media, like media always reports like negative things, right? Like, oh, this person got murdered, or there's this bad thing happening in the community, when I know, and you probably know for a fact as well, there's 100 positive things that happened that day, but they won't get reported because they don't get clicks, right? And like, whatever, fair enough. They're for-profit organizations. They need to get attention. But for my mental health, it wasn't good to be constantly seeing negative, 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 Say a similar thing with social media, right? What do you see? You see the highlights of everyone's day and, when they're looking the best, when they're having the best time of their life, and it makes you think, oh, maybe my life sucks, So when that's not really the case. So that's just like a TLDR of the effect that quitting social media and media has had on my life, and why, or not completely quitting it, but reducing it drastically, and why I like to do that. And even at work, so this is something I want to bring up. Even at work, I limit, so in my dopamine detox protocol, I limit constant distractions. Now, this is something that feeds into deep work. There's a book called Deep Work that talks about it, and maybe I'll make a video at some point. But the TLDR is, when I'm constantly looking for like these random Slack messages and email, feels also like I'm trying to get that dopamine hit of like, when you get an Instagram like or something like that. It's like, oh, who emailed me? Who, sent me a Slack message? But also it just distracts you majorly, right? Like it's hard to do deep focused work when you're getting pinged on Slack every 5 minutes, or you're checking Slack to see if you got pinged every 5 minutes. So just reducing the, constant checking of email and Slack at work is part of my protocol. And so now I'm going to talk about results and a few caveats I want to throw out. So the results, the one that's, really easy for me to just tell right off the bat is better focus and like better emotional control, as weird as it sounds. When I was like a full-on overstimulation junkie, I found I had like little emotional control. I was very impulsive, I think is the word. I couldn't control my emotions. Something made me mad. It's like, I'm mad right away. Like if my neighbors are being loud or something, I'm like, man, freaking bloody neighbors, I can't stand them. or something else, some other small inconvenience happens, my impulse control was so bad, I'm just emotionally ready to react, right? And I found that now I have much better control of my emotions. Probably meditating and these things have fed into that as well, not just the dopamine detox. But the only reason I'm able to meditate and do all these things now is because I've cut out all that BS activities, and now I'm focusing on what's good for my mental health and what's good for me. So yeah, I have better focus, more emotional control, more energy to socialize and do hard things. I go out, I talk to people a little bit more now. That's something I'm still working on, but still I go out and I'm more comfortable talking to people and doing hard things like going to boxing class and such. Like boxing is difficult. Boxing conditioning is no joke. If you've ever been to boxing class, you know what I'm talking about. And that's what I'm working on right now. I want to have a few amateur fights under my belt as well. So I'll progress. I'll document that journey probably on this channel or Instagram as well. But anyway, more energy to socialize and do hard things, and just generally feeling happier and proud of myself. Like when I've done all these hard things, I've come out of this dark place where I'm just trying to avoid life and trying to numb the life experience as much as possible. And now I'm kind of on a different playing field. Now I'm trying to experience it as much as possible. I want to go out. I want to travel. I want to, do the boxing like I talked about. I want to do a few amateur fights. I want to maybe do MMA fights down the line. I want to grow my YouTube channel, blow this up. I want in my Instagram, all of that to blow up as well. Maybe do podcasts, maybe, I don't know, do some business ventures. Like there's a lot more excitement in my life now. Life is not something I hide from anymore. Life is something I want to experience, and I look forward to experiencing even more. And all that said, I never return to overstimulation, so I just don't see it ever happening. The benefits that I've noticed at this point, I don't know why my camera just got all dark. But the benefits that I noticed at this point, they're too great. I don't see it happening. So to conclude, life-changing shit, right? But I want to talk about balance in this, because one thing that I know some people may notice is that I haven't cut out overstimulation completely. Like I'm still playing video games every once in a while. I'm still on my phone at least a little bit. So you're probably wondering why, if I've noticed all these benefits, why even do it a little bit? And I would draw the example of trying to, if you're trying to do like a diet and you say, I'm going to be, 100%, I'm going to eat all healthy foods. I'm going to do all these things, right? When I was trying to do that, at least, usually what would happen is I would end up binge eating, because I would be on this like super healthy diet for like a week, 2 weeks. And then I'd be like, okay, I want, a little cookie. And then that cookie would turn to like, okay, I ruined my diet anyway. Let's just order a pizza. You know what I mean? And I found a similar pattern with dopamine detox, where it was like when I was just actively trying to resist all these things all day, it was just a little bit of, I would slip up a little bit. Maybe I'd use my smartphone a little bit. And then that would turn into like a whole day of, okay, I've got this one day to cheat. I'm just going to, basically do nothing but overstimulation activities the whole day. And I found that with a balance, with just allowing myself that break, I'm able to stay a lot more consistent and just generally feel better. It's not like social media is the devil. It's not like video games are the devil. It's not like these things are here specifically just to ruin your life. They have their place. It just becomes a problem, I feel, when that is your life. And, you're giving precedence to these activities instead of other things that deep down you should be doing. That's when I believe it's a problem. And yeah, so that is the conclusion of this video. That's all I have to say. If you have any questions, comments, please leave any comments down below. Questions, leave down below. DM me. I'm more than happy to respond. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll talk to you later.